Breaking news happening right now in the case against Lori Vallow Daybell and Chad Daybell.
This investigation is far from over.
Murder charges are filed in connection with the deaths of J.J. Vallow, Tylee Ryan, as well as Tammy Daybell, Chad Daybell's first wife.
A cloudy but warm Tuesday here across the state. We do have a few showers across the north and fire concerns across the south. I'll have your forecast coming up.
University of Utah researchers say we need to find faster ways to get people evacuated during a wildfire. What they say you should be doing right now.
One of the teachers called me over and said you can't have your cat decorated.
And a Utah high school graduate is left frustrated on her big day because family says their tradition was not allowed even after the school told them it would be.
There is probable cause to believe the Daybells willfully and knowingly conspired to commit several crimes that led to the death of 3 innocent people.
Today, 20 months after J.J. Vallow and Tylee Ryan disappeared, a breakthrough and what some would call justice in the saga that has gone from Utah to Idaho to Arizona and Hawaii. The children's mother, Lori, and her husband, Chad, have been charged with first-degree murder in the deaths of her children. Thanks for joining us. I'm Bob Evans.
And I'm Kelly Chapman. Fox 13's Lauren Steinbrecher has been following the story for the past year and a half. She joins us live now with the very latest. Lauren.
Yeah, Kelly and Bob, this is perhaps one of the biggest moments the children's family, the public, has been waiting for this entire year and a half. Several charges in the deaths of J.J., Tylee, and now Chad's late wife, Tammy. Now, those indictments talk about Lori and Chad's religious beliefs being used as the reason to justify the murders of all 3. And it includes some new pieces of evidence like internet searches and the use of burner phones, as well as the fact that Lori collected Tylee's Social Security 4 months after Tylee died. Today, the Madison and Fremont County prosecutors in a joint press conference said they know the public feels like work has been slow, but because of COVID, they were just recently given permission to present this case to the grand jury.
I want to assure everyone that despite the delays, we have been working diligently to pursue justice for the victims in this case, to ensure we have the evidence required to prove the facts beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law.
Now, some of the evidence not outlined in the indictments, exactly how J.J. and Tylee died, what the prosecution thinks happened during those moments. Well, coming up at 5:30, we're going to dig a little bit more into Tammy Daybell and the evidence laid out against Chad in her death. Live in studio, Lauren Steinbrecher, Fox 13 News, Utah.
All right, we'll see you then, Lauren. Thank you. Stay with Fox 13 News as we continue to track the very latest in the Daybell case. We will always have new developments here on air, on our social media pages, and always online at fox13now.com.
More breaking news this afternoon. Police say a 16-year-old is dead after a crash in Saratoga Springs. It happened at about 1:30 this afternoon near the intersection of Harvest Hills Boulevard and Redwood Road. Investigators say a 28-year-old driver may have run a red light, hitting the 16-year-old driver who died at the scene. The 28-year-old is in critical condition, we are told. Police say they have reports of a driver matching the 28-year-old's description, driving erratically and making rude hand gestures before the crash. We'll continue to follow this story and update it at fox13now.com.
If George Floyd happened in Utah, would he have received justice? We believe no.
Today marks 1 year since the killing of George Floyd by a Minneapolis police officer who pressed his knee onto Floyd's neck. And while the murder did happen in the Midwest, change echoes here in Utah.
But has it been enough for activists who have been calling for change? Fox 13's Haley Higgins is live in downtown Salt Lake this afternoon. Haley.
And George Floyd's face was one of the first to be painted on this vacant city building off 300 West. But his death and the impact of it here in Utah goes far beyond art. George Floyd's death in the 9.5 minutes former officer Derek Chauvin knelt on his neck during the arrest sparked a year of reckoning in the U.S. Months of demonstrations against systemic racism and police brutality came to the streets of Utah.
No justice. No peace. It has become not taboo to say the words Black Lives Matter. It has become socially normal.
Within a week, Utah lawmakers banned the use of knee-on-neck restraints. Salt Lake City strengthened its use of force policy, created an equity in policing commission while supplying officers with dozens of less lethal weapons.
I get really excited when we have policy changes. I'm excited about that.
This year, lawmakers passed 21 police reform laws. It includes collecting more data on police use of force and better training for officers. The NAACP Salt Lake branch helped consult lawmakers who passed 61% of the bills related to police reform.
The bills that were passed will make a difference, but we still have more work to do.
Looking ahead, advocates want to see no-knock warrants banned in Utah, as well as a civilian review board of police. They plan to continue offering police officers a seat at the table.
We have seen some progress, especially working with law enforcement and not working against them.
Using the momentum on a movement on race equity and police reform. And tonight, both advocates that I spoke with say that they would like to see the Federal Justice and Policing Act signed into law. Right now, it's in Washington, D.C. Reporting live in Salt Lake City, Haley Higgins, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Haley, thank you. Vigils are planned in remembrance of George Floyd tonight, including at the murals in downtown Salt Lake, where Haley is right now. And that begins at 6. The Black Student Union at Salt Lake Community College is also holding a memorial for George Floyd tonight. It happens at Alder Amphitheater on the Taylorsville Redwood Road campus from 8:30 to 9:30. The And Still I Rise Memorial will also honor other Black lives lost due to hateful violence and racism.
Meanwhile, there were some frightening moments near the George Floyd Memorial site, in Minneapolis, Minnesota this morning. Watch this.
This bill of comprehensive police reform to be... just got to be careful here with some gunshots. Excuse us.
Wow, that reporter you just saw take cover is with the Associated Press. He heard upwards of 30 gunshots ring out near George Floyd Square. Thankfully, it doesn't appear that anyone was hurt. A street festival had been planned at that location for later today to mark the anniversary of Floyd's death. It's unknown whether the festival was canceled. Today, the Floyd family visited the White House to meet with President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris.
The family heard the status of the police reform bill named after Floyd. It appears to be stalled in Congress right now. The president remains committed to cementing Floyd's legacy into law.
Legislation to tackle systemic misconduct in police departments, to restore trust between law enforcement and the people they're entrusted to serve and protect.
While President Biden wanted a deal done by today, the two lead Senate negotiators are optimistic a bipartisan agreement on police reform can be reached soon.
In New York City, Mayor Bill de Blasio, Reverend Al Sharpton, and other community and faith-based leaders, they gathered and knelt for 9 minutes and 29 seconds in George Floyd's honor. That's how long former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin knelt on Floyd's neck as Floyd pleaded for his life, saying he could not breathe.
Last month, the jury found Chauvin guilty of murder and manslaughter. Chauvin and 3 other officers who are also set to go to trial in Floyd's death have also been indicted on federal civil rights charges. Ahead of the Memorial Day weekend, Intermountain Healthcare is urging Utahns to safely prepare before heading out to the mountains, canyons, and lakes.
It's a good reminder. This morning, physicians, paramedics, safety experts, and traumatic injury survivors discussed things people can do. Among those to speak was Jason Kitchen, who was injured while the handlebars of his bike punctured his leg while riding in St. George. He hit a vein and nearly bled to death.
This was definitely a fluke incident. Like I mentioned earlier, I've had some way worse crashes before, but it doesn't hurt to be prepared for things like this.
May is National Trauma Awareness Month. Intermountain hospitals have already seen a 9% increase in trauma incidents as compared to this time last year.
Well, Allison, I couldn't decide whether those are high clouds or just regular cumulonimbus clouds or what kind of clouds
Weather
were up in the sky
Depends on
today.
where you are, yes. And you know what? We want no clouds come 5 a.m. as we have that total lunar eclipse. But northern half of the state, we do have quite a few clouds and also some areas of showers and thunderstorms. So yes, there are also some cumulonimbus clouds out there. But right now, what we have going on currently for the Wasatch Front, we do have areas of light rain, mostly for the Wasatch back and then over towards the West Desert. Lightning strikes north of Elko and Wells, right near the Idaho border. And our main concern for today, red flag warnings in place until 10 o'clock tonight for southern Utah. So we do have a cold front that's arriving tonight. We have lots of clouds out there. Temperatures that'll remain in the 70s for just a few more hours. Then once we hit 9, 10 o'clock tonight, we're back into the 60s. And then early tomorrow morning, it'll be around 50 degrees here in Salt Lake City. Chance for a few showers through the evening for that northern half of the state. And as always, you can search Fox 13 on your smart TV. You can get our first alert action, weather forecasts, our traffic graphics on demand anytime you want. Plus, I'm going to have your forecast for tomorrow morning, that total lunar eclipse. I'll let you know what you can expect here across the state coming up in a little bit.
All right, thank you, Allison. Still to come, caught on camera, a dump truck crashes into a light pole. What police in Syracuse want you to know about this incident.
It's helpful across the board, which means it's helpful for all of society.
Plus, this Utah professor wants to change the way police investigate sexual assaults. We'll look at a program she created and how it will help track down criminals. Got to see this. Right now, Syracuse police are searching for the driver of a dump truck that destroyed a street light last week. It happened on Friday at the roundabout at 1000 West, 2700 South. Police say after the driver hit the light, you see them back up in this video, then they drove off. If you have any information about the accident or recognize the truck, contact Syracuse police. A BYU professor wants to protect sexual assault victims and change the way their cases are investigated.
Dr. Julie Valentine became interested in the potential of touch DNA or collecting evidence from simple suspect contact after a 2011 groping case in Utah. Valentine is a forensic nurse and documented everywhere the woman remembered being touched and collected her clothing. The collected DNA samples matched the DNA of a suspect and was critical in solving the case. Now, Dr. Valentine is educating other healthcare workers about the importance of touch DNA.
Utah has really led the country. We have developed a touch DNA form. We have worked very hard to educate law enforcement about this. In practice, in real life cases, this is a tool that we can use. And even finding justice in 6 cases is meaningful for that survivor.
Dr. Valentine and her colleagues have conducted more than 100 training sessions so far.
I just don't want anybody else to have to go through this. Seeing my daughter walk without her cap was kind of heartbreaking.
They say the school was fine with how she wanted to honor her Native American heritage during graduation, but what happened was a big disappointment. Details straight ahead.
More than 12,000 doses of the COVID-19 vaccine was administered around the state in just the past 24 hours. Nearly 37% of the state's population, or 1,180,000 Utahns, have now been fully vaccinated. Utah saw another 185 new cases of COVID-19 today. That is below the 7-day daily average of 261 cases per day. There are 137 people currently hospitalized with the virus, with 52 of them in intensive care. No new COVID-19 related deaths were reported today.
Another vaccine option could be on the way for children as young as 12.
Moderna announced today its COVID-19 vaccine is 100% effective in children ages 12 to 17 after 2 doses and about 93% effective after only 1 shot. The drug maker says it plans to submit the data to the FDA in June in hopes of expanding its emergency use authorization to more age groups.
Kids may want to get the vaccine to prevent the inflammatory reaction. About 10,000 kids got it last year. That's something that can be prevented with the vaccine.
Both Pfizer and Moderna are also testing their vaccines in children as young as 6 months old. And that process could take longer because those age groups may need varying doses.
For Trinidad Cervantes, graduating from high school was a big deal, and getting Canyon View High School in Cedar City to allow her to wear a Native American symbol during the ceremony had deep meaning.
But when she got to commencement and her big moment, that's not how things turned out. Fox 13 Spencer Joseph reports on what happened.
I just don't want anybody else to have to go through this. Seeing my daughter walk without her cap was kind of heartbreaking.
For the Cervantes family, Monday morning was supposed to be joyous, with their daughter Trinidad graduating. A student with great grades and a varsity basketball player. She too was excited to be graduating.
We were getting ready to go, and one of the teachers called me over and said, "You can't have your cap decorated."
Trinidad was confused. She had put beads on her cap as well as an eagle feather to symbolize her Native American heritage, which a few weeks before her aunt had gotten approved by the school.
I was just frustrated and happy to get it over with. Glad that I didn't have to go back to the school ever again.
Canyon View High School in Cedar City announced their rules for graduation. They do say specifically that caps can't be decorated. But upon reading these rules, they say her aunt went to the school to see if the beading and feather could be used to honor her Native American heritage.
Would you have done this had the principal not said, "Yeah, go ahead"?
No, we wouldn't have done it. We would have abided by the rules.
This is the live stream of the graduation. You can see faculty members talking about the cap with Trinidad in the background. Then moments later, you see her walking out without it on. This is the cap itself, decorated with Native American beads and an eagle feather.
The eagle is a winged symbol for the Native American people because it is seen as the strongest and bravest of all birds. That was given to my niece.
So for this family, their hope is by sharing this uncomfortable experience that the school and district will recognize the symbolism of these designs and also make sure that a situation like this doesn't happen again.
I'm hoping that they will pass a law like they did in other states so that as Native Americans, we could be able to have our caps beaded and show our heritage and be proud.
Spencer Joseph, Fox 13 News, Utah.
We just heard back from the Iron County School District about this case. They say the district doesn't have a policy on graduation attire and instead leave it up to individual schools and administrators. They say Cedar and Canyon View High Schools prohibit decorating the top of those mortarboard caps, but a wide variety of those can be worn to reflect cultural traditions and individuality.
Well, springtime in Utah means it can get warm, it can get cold, it can get cloudy, it can get sunny.
Sometimes it does all of that on the same exact day.
That's right, it does. It's a roller coaster.
And we have a little bit of all of that in our forecast. But for the rest of the evening, partly to mostly cloudy sky here in Salt Lake City. We are seeing a few high base showers, mostly in Box Elder right now, creating some gusty conditions. Lightning has mostly been associated with the Idaho border north of Elko and Wells in northern Nevada. But here across our state, we will have the chance for a few areas of light raindrops, but nothing that is going to bring major impacts this evening. Southern Utah, bigger impact could be fire weather. If anything does get started, any fires, we will end up seeing those spreading very quickly, especially in Washington County for today. But our storm threat for this afternoon is mostly up near the Idaho border. We do have a chance for some thunderstorms across far northern Utah. That's that mint green color that you're seeing, and then some stronger storms off to our north. But red flag warnings, areas of hot pink for today and tomorrow in southern Utah. Current wind gusts, southern Utah, it's about 30 to 40 miles per hour. In southwestern Utah, Cedar City has been gusting fairly strong for the last few hours. Temperatures here across our state, it is about 70 to 75 here across Utah. St. George currently 84. Our overnight temperature here in Salt Lake, when you wake up tomorrow morning, it'll be about 52 degrees. And by tomorrow afternoon, it'll be a little bit cooler, 72. That's because a cold front is going to move through tonight, and it will work its way through the state tomorrow. And so our daytime highs will be a little bit cooler. But Futurecast this evening, we're going to have a lot of clouds here across the state. Now, the reason that's a bummer is because we have that total lunar eclipse that'll peak about 5 to 5:30 in the morning. Now, I have some good news. We're going to see some clearing, but that potentially might not be arriving until after that has already, the sun has risen and that moon is setting. So Futurecast heading into tomorrow night into Thursday morning, we'll see partly cloudy sky, but temperatures by next weekend could be very hot here across the state as we look at this upper level weather forecast. So just a peek at maybe June 3rd, really getting some cool weather here across the region. Overnight temps about 50 to 55, highs tomorrow around 70 to 75. Now I am tracking that chance for some isolated showers this evening, and again could see some gusty conditions, but fire is my main concern for southern Utah the next couple of days. Close to 90 to 95 in St. George heading into the holiday weekend, and for the Wasatch Front it'll be around 70 for Wednesday, 81 for Thursday, so we warm back up pretty quickly. Tomorrow is the coolest day left in our 7-day forecast.
Just how quickly are you prepared to evacuate in case of a wildfire? University of Utah researchers say it's probably not fast enough.
We have come to the point in the investigation where we can bring these charges.
And new developments in the Chad Daybell case, including a murder investigation into his previous wife, Tammy, coming to light. We'll break down exactly what he's facing. The District of Columbia has filed an antitrust lawsuit against Amazon.
D.C. Attorney General Karl Racine accuses the tech giant of engaging in anti-competitive behavior. The lawsuit indicates third-party sellers on Amazon are restricted from offering their products at a lower price on other websites, therefore keeping retail prices artificially high across the internet. The lawsuit does not state Amazon violated federal antitrust laws, just D.C.'s antitrust law.
The Biden administration is enhancing pipeline security after the Colonial Pipeline hack. Pipeline companies will soon be required to report cyber attacks to the Department of Homeland Security. That's according to sources familiar with the plan. Right now, companies report cybersecurity incidents on a voluntary basis. This change comes about 2 weeks after the Colonial Pipeline was paralyzed by a ransomware attack. The company had to shut down operations, causing gas shortages in the southeast.
More American workers are saying, "Give me a break." Staffing firm Robert Half says about 44% of employees are feeling major burnout from their jobs during the pandemic, with a lot of people forfeiting vacation time last year. That, however, is not the case in 2021, as 1/3 of workers plan to take at least 3 weeks of vacation this year.
U.S. stocks wobbled today with the major indexes hovering around the flat line, while Bitcoin prices edged lower once again after a period of volatile trading. The Dow dropped 82 points to close at 34,312. The Nasdaq slid 4. The S&P fell 9.
Coming up at 5:30, we're tracking the latest developments in the Daybell murder case, including new details in the investigation into the death of Chad's first wife, Tammy.
Coming up, I'm going to show you different parts of the state in terms of our rivers, what they look like right now and what they should look like right now.
Right now, we continue to follow breaking news in the Chad and Lori Daybell case. Authorities in Idaho have charged them both with several new charges today, including first-degree murder in the deaths of Lori's children, J.J. Vallow and Tylee Ryan. This comes a year and a half of the investigation into the disappearance of the two children and falls on what would have been J.J.'s 9th birthday.
Another layer in all of these charges is a revelation in the death of Chad's previous wife, Tammy. Her death is being investigated as a murder as well.
Fox 13's Lauren Steinbrecher joins us now in studio with a closer look at that part of the case. Lauren.
Yeah, so this is the first time we are getting a deeper glimpse into Tammy's death and what prosecutors have gathered that point to murder. Now, those documents outline Lori and Chad's religious beliefs that they used to justify the murders of J.J. Tylee and now Tammy Daybell, who died in October of 2019. Now, at first, her death was ruled natural causes. Evidence outlined includes text messages between Chad and Lori regarding death percentages for Tammy and J.J., burner phones that Chad and Lori's brother Alex Cox purchased, Chad increasing Tammy's life insurance policy before she died. A retired FBI Special Agent Frank Montoya says even though Tammy's exact cause of death is not listed in the indictments, the prosecution listed everything else to lay out her death as anything but natural causes.
It just adds to the burden or the amount of evidence to prove that burden of guilt. Yes, these guys didn't just, it wasn't just a spur of the moment kind of thing. It wasn't accidental. Again, it's all about the premeditation. It's about thinking about how you're going to commit the crime before you commit the crime.
We know Tammy's autopsy is complete, but we don't know what those results show. The indictments explain Alex Cox, Lori's brother, tried to shoot Tammy and even Googled how to shoot through a vehicle and also went to the shooting range. Now, Montoya says that we don't see those exact causes of death, probably for a reason that the prosecution is holding some of those things back, only listing in the indictments what they believe is necessary for those indictments that proves these 9 charges against the couple, from, of course, first-degree murder down to Social Security and insurance fraud. And those other details will be coming out later on. Live in studio, Lauren Steinbrecher, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Lauren, thank you. This saga just continues. Prosecutors have not discussed whether they will pursue the death penalty against the Daybells. They must make that decision within 60 days of the defendants entering a plea. Stay with Fox 13 News as we continue to track the latest developments in the Daybell case. We'll have the latest throughout the day on the air and online at fox13now.com.
What we're calling for basically is for people to think outside the box.
Researchers at the University of Utah are studying new, quicker ways to get people evacuated during wildfires.
Fox 13's Sydney Glenn spoke with one of the lead researchers about why western states such as Utah need to change things.
Professor Tom Kova says we are seeing wildfires like never before, growing larger and moving faster, so people need to find quicker ways to evacuate.
Over the whole experience, we learned that miracles happen.
In 2018, Adrian Walker, along with about 6,000 others, were evacuated during the Bald Mountain and Pole Creek fires in central Utah. More than 120,000 acres burned.
Knowing that every night the fires were descending down towards the city and not knowing if it would be there in the morning.
Utah is bracing for what could be an intense fire season, something Tom Kova with the University of Utah says we are seeing more of in the West.
We have unprecedented fires all over the place.
5 of the 6 largest wildfires on record burned in 2020 in California. Kova says climate change is causing wildfires to become more unpredictable, so people need to get prepared.
Don't base your planning on what's happened in the past when all these fires that are happening have never happened before.
The new research paper from the University of Utah shows minimalizing losses during dire scenarios requires thinking outside the box.
Exits in different directions, exits with sufficient capacity, low subscription rates to reverse 911 systems or cell phones that don't work in canyon areas. We can have real problems reaching people.
Sergeant Spencer Cannon with the Utah County Sheriff's Office says evacuations can take time.
If there's a lot of homes in the area, one of the challenges can simply be having enough people to do it quickly.
Kova suggests emergency management planners and people considering adding temporary areas of refuge in case evacuations can't happen fast enough, possibly adding fire shelters or bunkers, and even people keeping fire suits in their garages, plus relying on each other.
If your plan is that each household will leave on its own, you're missing a big part of how much communities help each other.
Kova says this change in thinking may just save lives and homes, like back in 2018.
Remarkable people came and the fire crews were up here and doing their jobs, and it It was a miraculous experience.
Professor Kova says some of the limitations to this type of out-of-the-box thinking is getting to those vulnerable populations, and Sergeant Spencer Cannon says it can be difficult to evacuate people when they don't want to go. That makes saving lives very hard. In Utah County, Sydney Glenn, Fox 13 News, Utah.
It's all about being prepared. Still, it is too early to know how well any of these ideas could potentially work, but a study of Australian wildfire deaths found 32% happened during late evacuations. Starting tomorrow, the Bureau of Land Management will begin fire restrictions on public lands. Washington, Kane, Garfield, Iron, and Beaver counties are the areas where grinding, cutting, and welding of metal will be restricted. People cannot smoke in areas with flammable vegetation, and you're also not allowed to use explosives or light campfires, pellet stoves, or fireworks.
From wildfire warnings to watering restrictions, we've heard a lot of warnings about the exceptional and extreme drought in Utah.
And every few minutes, dozens of monitoring stations measure streams and rivers to tell us what conditions are right now. Fox 13's Max Roth shows us.
Utah's waterways are drier than they've been in the last 2 decades for this time of year, in which they should be flowing at their peak. That's what I realized looking at the data the U.S. Geological Survey puts out all day, every day. The red dots on this map of Utah show water is low. We'll zoom in on 3 significant places, starting with the Green River at the town of Green River. The blue dots on this chart show how much water was flowing through at this time in May for each of the last 20 years. The high point, 2005, roaring 26,500 cubic feet per second. The low point, right now, less than a fifth of that peak, under 5,000 CFS. The black line shows the drying trend. Not good, but the Green River has the best trend line of the 3 we'll see. Now north to the Provo River at the town of Woodland in Summit County, flowing from the Uintas and providing water to the Wasatch Front. The high point at this time of year in this century, 2003, with 1,900 cubic feet per second. The lowest point today, just below 400, and the trend turned downward early on. And now south to the Virgin River, the lifeline of southwest Utah. In Hurricane, the Virgin River peaked this century in 2005, 1,830 cubic feet of water flowing through each second. The low point, yes, today, 47 CFS. Now to one more chart from the feds. Stick with me. This shows every day for 20 years on the Virgin River. All of those spikes are at this time of year, except this year. That black dotted line is the median amount, so you can compare through the years. And it's a little spooky to see those dots rise so far above the actual water amount for this year. So let's look closer, and you see that dotted line starting in the fall. The lines diverged in a way they simply didn't in recent history. That divergence from the norm is most pronounced on the Virgin River, but you can see it in other rivers to a lesser degree. The thing about all of these rivers, they're erratic in our semi-arid and arid climates. Next year could be a wet year, but you have to plan as if it won't be. In the newsroom, Max Roth, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Right now, authorities are looking into what caused a house in Midvale to go up in flames. This happened just before 11:30 this morning near Allen Street and First Avenue. No one was home at the time. No one was hurt.
We're a long way out from next year's general legislative session here in Utah, but one controversial bill will return. Morgan Representative Kira Birkeland will bring back her bill that would ban transgender athletes from competing in girls' sports in Utah. It died in committee last session. Birkeland is inviting anyone to participate in roundtable discussions about it over the next few months. The state's Health and Human Services Interim Committee will hold a public hearing on the bill next month.
Plans are becoming reality tonight for UDOT's largest construction project in nearly 2 decades. It's being called the West Davis Highway. The brand new 16-mile stretch of highway is expected to be finished by 2023, so still a few years out. UDOT says this project should reduce congestion on I-15 and other roads in Weber and Davis counties by 30% by the year 2040. Coming up, the newest addition to a 75-year-old hospital campus was formally unveiled this afternoon. What the new building means to the Ogden Regional Medical Center community.
Plus, I'm tracking fire warnings for parts of the state right now, and also a chance for some showers and gusty wind across northern Utah tonight. We're back in 60 seconds. Welcome back, everyone, and good evening. A brand new building on the Ogden Regional Hospital campus was unveiled today. Construction on the new Medical Center Plaza began in 2019. The 74,000 square foot building stands where an outdated building once was. It will provide much needed space to accommodate the growth of both hospital and office space, as well as new hospital services.
This medical office building represents our continued commitment to grow and expand services to meet the needs of our community.
The Medical Center Plaza will be 75% occupied by this summer. Tenants were allowed to start moving in last September, and today's grand opening was postponed, like so many other things, because of the pandemic.
As we start to see the end of the pandemic, many are wondering what long-term impacts the past year may have had on our mental health. Intermountain Healthcare and the National Alliance on Mental Illness provided an update this afternoon on the current outlook of Utah's mental health.
Now that we're coming out of the pandemic, we begin to see the after effects of any disaster, which psychologically, that's the time where we tend to see the biggest effects.
The discussion also included the announcement of a new behavioral health navigation line, which allows callers to speak with caregivers for free. That number is on your screen. It is 1-833-442-2211. We have more information as well at fox13now.com.
Still ahead, we will show you one Jordan School District teacher's positively Utah approach to education and how it got her a major honor by her peers.
Coming up in sports, Real Salt Lake's Justin Glad will tell us what has made RSL different this season compared with last year. And the Jazz have a lot to improve on from game 1 to 2 against the Memphis Grizzlies. We'll hear from Derek Favors and Mike Conley after today's practice.
The Utah Transit Authority is launching a late-night, on-demand ride service for Salt Lake City.
It'll run on Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. Salt Lake International Airport will not be included in the service area. Masks will be required until further notice. The service begins Thursday and will run until September 4th. The Utah Natural History Museum wants you to get out this summer and see some of the great landscapes our state has to offer. They're recruiting learners for their summer program, the Natural History Explorer Corps. Using an app on your phone, explorers can visit markers the museum has placed in Utah's 29 counties. Once you find the marker, you can learn about the iconic natural and cultural history in that area.
Explore something unique and unexpected about the state and really enjoy being outside, free from the challenges of this past year.
To join the Explorer Corps, go to fox13now.com.
The Utah Jazz Bear is giving back to members of the Utah Air National Guard. It's all part of the Hoops for Troops initiative. There's the Jazz Bear. He paid service members a visit and handed out hundreds of freshly baked cookies just as a way to say thank you for the troops' dedication to protect our country. The Utah Jazz Bear also claimed the title of Company Grade Officer of the Year. Way to go, Jazz Bear, I guess. With those cookies, they look good.
For the past year, one Jordan School District elementary teacher has gone above and beyond for her students.
That is why the district named her Teacher of the Year. Fox 13 photojournalist Jessie Walden shows us how this educator's dedication is to her students.
I think Miss Cosner is amazing.
Kimberly, for example, she knows almost every kid by name in the school, not just her class.
Hi, Dylan. I think the question whenever they come through the door every week is, what is Miss Cosner going to do next? Or like, what's going to be happening in our classroom? Because we've done Jurassic Park, we've done a carnival, we've done a hospital. We've just done so many different things, room transformations in our classroom, that they're probably already like always guessing or trying to guess what's happening.
From the moment you walk into her class, you feel a sense of family, belonging. Her class is broken up into 4 Harry Potter houses. Kimberly Costler, welcome to the best day of your life. Today you have been awarded the Outstanding Educator at Columbia Elementary. Congratulations.
I'm always excited to find the one that I want to submit for our Teacher of the Year nomination. And this year it was easy because Kimberly just rocked it.
My classmate says she's a vampire because she always likes the lights off.
Chicken wing, chicken wing.
It says chicken wing, and we say hot dog and bologna.
We shout, we scream, we whisper. I wake up in the morning and I just think, how can I make teaching fun for them? How can I make this memorable? Especially this year, throughout all the craziness, that they're world changers, that they can go out there and change the world. That's the goal.
Well, congratulations. Hey, here across the state over the next couple of days, tomorrow's going to be a little bit cooler than today, but then we have temperatures close to 80 for quite a while heading into the holiday weekend. I wanted to start off with a Salt Lake City picture right now towards Old Mill. This is from our Old Mill camera, so the Old Mill golf course right there. And it's just such a stunning day to get outside. Now we do have a few showers with some gusty wind in northwestern Utah right now, but currently here in Salt Lake, it's 75 degrees. Our wind is about 5 to 10 miles per hour. We have full visibility, but if you do live in an area like northern Utah near the Idaho border where you're going to have any thunderstorms rolling through or any just quick high base showers, those will create some gusty conditions. But waking up along the Wasatch Front tomorrow morning, it'll be around 50 degrees first thing in the morning, and then by 10 a.m. we're back into the 60s. Now here's what it looks like right now on satellite and radar, and here's what you need to know. The most lightning that we're seeing has been in northern Nevada. Most of this will be along the Idaho border or into Idaho, heading into the rest of the evening. Some showers through Wendover along I-80, those will move through, so don't be too surprised if you end up seeing some rain on your windshield briefly, but these are going to be pretty quick moving. Some of these are just high based, and where we're seeing the gustier winds are in Box Elder County. And for southern Utah, just straight up wind because of the setup creating the fire conditions. So red flag warnings in place for 4 more hours until 10 o'clock tonight for Washington County. Come tomorrow, we bring that fire concern all the way over towards Lake Powell and up towards Green River. So that's going to be through the Moab area and into Colorado. But temperatures here across the state currently, it's about, let's call it 70 to 80 here across the state. St. George an exception. And then tomorrow, St. George 88 for a high, Salt Lake City 72, Park City 65, and for Moab 86. Brought those temps down just a little bit because of a cold front that's moving into northern Utah this evening, and then we're going to have that moving through the state tomorrow. So for Salt Lake, you'll see tomorrow's going to be cooler compared to the rest of the week. The chance for some showers through the evening, and then we'll continue with cloud cover for most of the evening. We'll have that total lunar eclipse peaking about 5 to 5:30, and I'm hoping we see some thinning of the clouds, but there's a chance it's mostly cloudy for a lot of the state come tomorrow morning that time. Future precipitation mostly in far northern Utah. We're talking about 1/10 of an inch of rain, not a lot. Around 50 to 60 as you wake up tomorrow morning. Highs will end up being around 70 to 80 here across the state. St. George close to 90 through the next several days. Tomorrow, quite a few clouds. Low 90s for the holiday weekend and for the Wasatch Front. Low 70s tomorrow, 80s after that.
Well, it's been an up and down 48 hours for the Utah Jazz. They lost game 1 to Memphis on Sunday without Donovan Mitchell, who was upset and frustrated after the game. Then yesterday, Jazz announced Mitchell will play in game 2, and Jordan Clarkson was named the NBA's Sixth Man of the Year. Now they just have to figure out a way to beat the Grizzlies tomorrow night. There's plenty of things the Jazz can do better in game 2. They made just 12 of their 47 three-point attempts. They had too many live ball turnovers, and they didn't match the playoff intensity that the Grizzlies had on Sunday night. If they can improve in those areas, the Jazz should be good tomorrow night, especially with Mitchell back after missing the last 17 games. He's not just the leading scorer, he's their leader on the court, and that was missing in game 1.
You know, whether he makes shots or miss shots, you know, just having his presence in attack mode and, you know, the gravity that he has when he has the ball in his hands, just being able to create plays and force teams to pay attention to him. And he's also another guy who could, you know, just create for himself and get other guys involved. So, you know, we're a good team, but with him out there, he adds another dimension to this team that we've been missing. We're ready for him to come back, and I know he's excited and he's ready to come out and help us win this series.
We feel like we're capable of winning. We're capable of executing at a high level, but we have to do it at a consistent level, and we just didn't do that in the first game and come with the same intensity as they did. They played a lot hungrier than we did, and that's what an 8 seed, you know, in order to beat a 1 seed, that's what you have to be. You know, we have to be more of that than they are.
After playing to a 2-2 tie in Dallas on Friday, Real Salt Lake will return home this Saturday to play Minnesota, the team they beat in Minnesota to start the season. RSL has 2 wins, 2 ties, and a loss in their first 5 games this year. That has them in the middle of the pack in the standings, but they're playing with more confidence this season, and it's showing on the field.
I think there's a massive difference. Obviously, just from a mental standpoint, I think we're going into these games expecting 3 points, whereas towards the end of last season, you know, when you've had a rough season like that, it's tough to go out there full of confidence and having that mentality, thinking we're going to go in and get 3 points on the road. But this year, you can definitely tell there's a belief. There's a belief that we're going to score goals. There's a belief that we're going to hold it down defensively. And when you have that attitude and you think you're going to win, more often than not, you do.
Now let's hope that continues. We'll be right back.
Quick look outside at downtown Salt Lake City. The cranes are still out. Those construction cranes.
Yeah, every time we check this camera, it looks a little different.
Oh, really?
Things are going up.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
City's
right.
coming alive. Have a great evening, everyone. Thanks for being with us.
We'll see you back here at 9 o'clock.